Welcome back. This is Mr. Tipton, and today we begin our percents unit with a quick overview of what rational numbers are. Here we have the definition. Rational numbers are numbers that can be written as fractions. And here on the screen I have 5 different examples of rational numbers. Our first number here, 2/3, is obviously it can be written as a fraction. It already is a fraction. -7 can also be written as a fraction. We just take any number and put it over 1. -7 divided by 1 is -7, but here it is in fraction form, so it's rational. 5.3 or 5 3/10 can be rewritten as a fraction or as a mixed number. 5 3/10. Repeating decimals like 0.6 repeating can also be written as fractions. We know that 0.6 repeating is actually 2/3. If we put 2 divided by 3 in our calculators, we would get 0.666666 as far as the display could hold. So repeating decimals are fractions, and perfect square roots are also rational numbers. A square root is a number times itself. That is the number that's in the symbol, in the radical symbol there. The square root of 9 is 3 because 3 times 3 is 9. So again, this can be written as a fraction just by putting it over 1. Okay? But the bottom line here is that rational numbers are numbers that can be written as fractions. Numbers that can't be written as fractions are called irrational numbers. Irrational numbers cannot be written as fractions. Probably the most common, the most popular irrational number is pi. You know that pi is a decimal that goes on forever. 3.1415926. That's as far as I have memorized. But the thing about pi is that it's a decimal that goes on forever, and the numbers don't repeat. There's no pattern. It doesn't repeat, it doesn't terminate, it doesn't end, it just keeps on going. And because there's no pattern to it, we can't write it as a fraction. We can't just put a decimal that goes on forever and doesn't have a pattern and put it over 1 and call it good. We can't do that. And then we have a square root of something like 8. 8 is a non-perfect square because there is nothing times itself that equals 8. So the square root of 8 is also an irrational number. We cannot simplify it and write it as a fraction. Bar notation, just want to make sure that we know how to write repeating decimals. Here we see we've got 0.6, all these 6's, they'd go on forever. Well, since we don't have the time or the paper space to write numbers forever, we use something called bar notation. And we put a line or a bar over the earliest, simplest pattern that repeats. So here we only have 6's, which means we put a bar over the 6. For 0.833333333, we would put a bar over just the 3. It doesn't go over the 8 and the 3 because the 8838383 isn't the pattern. That's why it only goes over the 3, because it's only the 3 that's repeating. And one more example here, we've got 0.459459459459. Here we're going to put the bar over all 3 of the numbers because all 3 of the numbers are repeating. So that's how bar notation works for repeating decimals. Let's look at percents a little bit. Percents is the new thing for us this year. Of course, we do a lot of converting between fractions and decimals in our calculator, and we can use our calculator to do some percents as well. But just real quickly, we need to make sure we understand what a percent is. It's a ratio out of 100. Okay, this first one here, 17%, is 17 out of 100. Percent means out of 100. That cent part, years in a century, cents in a dollar, centimeters in a meter. Cente means hundredth. If you want to convert a percent to a fraction, like here, you just put it out of 100. 17 out of 100. This one would be 9.2 out of 100. If you wanted to make it a decimal, you would just divide it. Or, well, you could say 17 hundredths right here. If you just say it, you're also saying the decimal, 0.17. That is 17 hundredths. You just move that decimal point back 2 places. Same thing over here, 9.2. If I move it left twice and put a ninja 0 in there, 9.2% is 0.092, which we would also say 92 thousandths. But to go from a percent to a decimal, you just move the decimal point left twice. To go from a decimal to a percent, you move it the other way. Let's use blue. Okay, 95 hundredths, or 0.95, is the same thing as 95%. And 1.635, or 1 and 635 thousandths. If we wanted the percent, we just move the decimal to the right twice, and we've got 163.5%. Okay, percents are ratios out of 100, and it's just moving the decimal point back and forth to go from decimals to percents. Alright, put in order from least to greatest. Here we have 3 different kinds of rational numbers. We have fractions, we have percents, we have another fraction, and we've got a decimal. Before we can put them in order from least to greatest, we're going to have to convert all of them to the same form. And it doesn't matter what you convert them to. If you want to make them all fractions, fine. If you want to make them all decimals, great. Want to make them all percents? Go for it. But you have to make them all the same thing so that it's easier to compare them, so you can put them in order. I'm actually going to turn everything into a decimal. So this one on the end is already done because it's already a decimal. 65%, if I wanted to make it a decimal, I would just move the decimal 2 times to the left and I would get 0.65. 2/3 is a decimal. I would just put 2 divided by 3 in my calculator and I get 0.6 repeating. 6's that go on forever. And if I put 6 divided by 7 in my calculator, I get 0.857142. Okay, that's enough. That's a 5 there. Alright, now that they're all decimals, they're a lot easier to compare. My smallest one is clearly right here, my 0.63. That's number 1. That's the least one. So 0.63. The next smallest one, it looks like 0.65 is next because it's 65%. 2/3 comes next because 0.6, repeating, even though it goes on forever, even though it's 6, that's still going to be less than something that's 0.8. 0.8 will always be more than 0.6 no matter how long it goes. So 2/3 comes next, and 6/7 is the largest out of the 4. Alright, so again, you can convert these things to whatever you want to convert them to. Just remember when you write your answer to put the things that you're given in order. You'll notice I didn't put the decimals that I converted to in order from least to greatest. I used the numbers that I was given. Okay, make sure you do the same thing. Alright, that's our intro into rational numbers. Write down any questions that you have. Make sure you have your calculators handy. We'll be using those a lot the next couple of days. And we'll see you soon.